It is the 5th of the 11th, 2024. The time is 8:05, and it's going to get techie tonight as we review the very many F1 threads at which we need to pull. On the docket tonight, it's Colapinto, it's Lewis Hamilton, it's Johnny Herbert, and it's Christian Horner. Let's talk about Christian Horner first, the god tier team principal of the Bulls that are red, because his payment, his remuneration even, has been reported. Annual reports for 2023 being released, and Christian Horner being the legend that he is, being the guy, the team principal that I, as an F1 fan, would always take into the trenches with me, being that guy to get it done each and every single time. Lest we forget, 2021 was due to be his final hurrah, but again, silverware settings, and this man is nothing if not the dude to get it done. Get a victory as far as the Drivers' Championship over the line. And as far as his remuneration, his pay, 8.04 million is what he got in 2022, say Planet F1. In 2023 though, he's received an increase, now getting circa, as near as makes no difference, 9 million flat. But as far as shareholders, they got more, didn't they? Christian Horner is not one of them. Red Bull Racing or Red Bull GmbH shareholders landed themselves a £50 million dividend. Helmut Marko, you'll be aware, also signed himself a brand new contract, did he not? 3.5 million is what he got in 2022. That went up in 2023 to 7 million. 7? What are we doing? We knew that Helmut Marko was Max Verstappen's guy and that Max Verstappen felt like he'd been stabbed in his back. He wanted to potentially exercise the Helmut Marko clause with a view to mitigate for that. Red Bull Racing signed Helmut Marko on disposing of the Helmut Marko clause as far as Maximilian Verstappen's ability to hit the escape button. Techie, eh? Red Bull's record-breaking success in F1 2023 results in a company turnover rising 16% to 446 million. That's the amount from which the shareholders got a decent payout of £50 million. Toto Wolff only got a smaller salary, 6 million versus Christian's 9. What are we doing here? 25 million in dividends. However, lest we forget that Toto, the boy who cried wolf, is a shareholder, 33% of, as far as the boys and girls from Brackley and Bricks. Zach Brown in comparison, big baller settings, his pay rose from 9 to 26.4 million. Oh, the humanity. Who'd be an F1 team principal, eh? And by the way, one Johnny Herbert has chimed in again, stoking the British bias fires. He spoke of Max Verstappen, saying that he was incredible this weekend past, that he was brilliant. Michael Schumacher-esque as far as his ability to handle adverse wet conditions, monsoon settings. However, he punctuated it with this, saying if he can be so brilliant at the Brazilian Grand Prix, the question, time and time again, says Johnny Herbert, steward of FIA, is that why didn't he do that in Mexico? Why couldn't he replicate for his not insubstantial performance, outperforming the car, surviving the conditions, travelling from 17th on the grid to first over the course of 43 laps? Why couldn't he do that in Mexico? And again, Johnny Herbert is stoking the not insubstantial fires around British bias. I think the question from Johnny Herbert's perspective, however, is why can a steward talk the way he can? There is a line surely between that delineates regulatory personnel, and again that necessitates surely objectivity. So why do we have Johnny Herbert out here taking shots at the man who succeeded him even at Benetton back in the day? Here's what Johnny Herbert had to say on that circumstance. I'm Johnny Herbert, the steward and the professional during a race weekend. Johnny Herbert, a pundit at other times. I usually express my opinion and what I think on a Monday and a Tuesday. When I'm a steward, however, I don't express my opinion. And that's where it gets techie, ladies and gents. What's Johnny Herbert talking about? Surely if you're a referee or an umpire, surely you should never come out in front of the press and express your opinions, particularly if you are speaking out against related parties, a driver or a driver's manager, or indeed a driver's father. I understand it from Yossi's point of view because it's his son. Is there any bias? Asked the non-rhetorical question one Johnny Herbert. No, of course not, he says. I wasn't the only one to think that Max was over the top in Mexico. Lando and McLaren boss Zach Brown also thought so too. When I do speak to people on Monday and Tuesday, that is outside of my steering responsibilities. But the techie thing is, Johnny Herbert, when you make these quotes as polemic as they are sometimes, the headline will always read FIA steward Johnny Herbert reports thus, and never more than now has that given rise, borne out even, the need for full-time stewards. What are we doing, FIA? This is nonsense. Johnny Herbert will get himself £300 per day. That's not, you can't even buy McDonald's with that. How are you going to hire yourself full-time stewards if that's what you're paying them? And again, it's not lost to me that Mohammed Ben Sulayem is jet setting around the world in a private jet and expensing that. So nobody's not going to tell me that the FI cannot afford it. Oh, and by the way, as far as Lewis Hamilton, he said some things at the end of the Grand Prix Brazil, didn't he? He said that if this is the last time I can perform, then I apologise for you guys. And again, that stoked the fires that potentially Lewis Hamilton will retire before the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That this was his last ever Grand Prix of the Brazilian. To which official personnel at Mercedes have responded, this is nonsense. You are reading too much into it. As far as we know, they said, per Craig Slater of Sky Sports F1, Lewis will be here for the next 3 races, after which he will go across the pastures anew, the red team in the red overalls. But it is funny as far as Lewis Hamilton is concerned though. Negativity is exactly what this fellow is epitomised. I feel like he's done with this circumstance that is Mercedes, through with it. As painful as that might sound, Lewis Hamilton ending his tenure at the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth in pain and trauma. Ladies and gentlemen, it make sense. Oh, and by the way, Franco Colapinto sounds like he may be headed over to Red Bull Racing. Not this year, however, next year. You saw Christian Horner coming out of the Williams garage this weekend past at the Brazilian Grand Prix, the motorhome, rumoured to be having negotiations with James Vowles in real time. Red Bull Racing, however, making this circumstance more techy, will need to buy out Colapinto from his contract, currently contracted through to 2027-2028, depending on who you talk to, as a Williams reserve driver. What they can't offer in though Williams is a seat in their F1 team, because they've already signed Albon and they've already signed Carlos Sainz for next year. Therefore, rumour is that Christian Horner wants to buy Franco Colapinto out, but it will cost him $20 million. Oh, the humanity. And as far as this financial Rubik's Cube, lest we forget, if they want to get rid of Checo Perez for his not immaterial underperformance season to date, they'll need to buy him out too. His rumoured salary is $14 million. However, he's estimated to bring in, via sponsorship of Carlos Slim, an estimated $17 million. Do the maths then. Rumour on the F1 curb is that one Checo Perez was offered to retire humbly, take himself away at the Mexican Grand Prix. Didn't fancy it though. Franco Colapinto, however, reports one Joe Saywood, is the next one up, bringing with him loads of money in terms of Carlos Slim sponsorship. The rumour is that Carlos Slim is happy to transpose, lift and drop all of his sponsorship money that he was pointing at Checo Perez onto Franco Colapinto once Checo Perez takes his leave of absence at the end of this season. Franco Colapinto, for the avoidance of doubt, is a whirling dervish, a force of nature, charisma for days, knows how to work himself a room, and therefore fits in nicely, not with RB Visa Cash App, soon to be renamed, but with Red Bull Racing, alongside one Maximilian Verstappen. However, Colapinto's management have poo-pooed this. Asked whether he's already signed, as per Argentine journalist insinuation. Asked about this, they said he hasn't signed yet, that conversations are being had in real time. So charismatic is that dude. And again, not on the back of a poorer performance. The first poor performance of Franco Colapinto's F1 career, his management say, potentially. this isn't going to happen, though they are having conversations with multiple teams, Alpine, RB Visa Cash App, Red Bull and Williams in real time. Rest assured then, alongside Bartoletto potentially at Audi, Ollie Behrman et al., Franco Colapinto will be an F1 driver as at 2025. He's too good to turn down. The opportunity cost of Red Bull not signing him far too high. Indeed, for the longest time, you guys have heard me argue that Checo Perez, as far as his prospects going forward, there is more risk to keeping him than jettisoning him off as at November of 2025. Flotsam and Jetsam F1 is what Checo Perez represents. Colapinto will be at Red Bull Racing, if rumour is to be believed, as soon as 2025. Ladies and gents, what are we doing here?